Power, power, clock, correct, time, time for the big boss with the hot sauce. You see, that's me. I am the Geator with the heater, being on the record. I play the single, rotten, bop, and chip,
Once again, let me say greetings and salutations to the entire population of this here fantastic nation. I am the Geator, the big boss with the big hot sauce, and we've got a show. You're on the air with Brenda Lee. You're on the air with the fantastic Everly Brothers. You're on the air with Carl Perkins. But to kick things off, let me take you back now with the Geator Gold Dancers to 1968. Johnny Taylor, he says. This young fella originally began his career singing gospel with a group called the Soul Stirrers. And if you know your music, you know that Sam Cooke originally used to sing with the Soul Stirrers. But when you talk about getting down, the Geator Gold Dancers do their thing. Talk about soul, the Memphis sound with yours truly, the Geator. And it's interesting because that's not too far away from the country sound. And on the show, we're going to be saluting some of the great country stars. And when you talk about country stars, let me take you back right now to the year 1957. Two young people called Don and Phil Everly. See if you remember this.
Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness, hello loneliness, I think I'm gonna cry. Bye-bye love, bye-bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my love, goodbye. There goes my baby with someone new. She sure looked happy out there and blue. She was My love was divine.
1957, Don and Phil Everly, a gigantic top 10 record. It's country, but it goes into the pop world. Now, when you talk about country, there's certain artists that certainly contributed to the success of country going popular. One of those people, a young lady that I'm about to present to you on my Geator Phonovision, let me introduce you to my love, Miss Brenda Lee. Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Wonderful, my baby. You know, it's been a while since you and I had an opportunity to chat, but you have been doing this since you were a little girl. I'm going back with you. I remember when you were 5, 6, 7 years old doing shows. When did you decide that you wanted to be in show business?
Oh, gosh, I've been in it so long. I've been in it since I was a child. I started singing professionally when I was 6, and, you know, I don't know at that age that you really know what you want to do. So I don't think it was till after I got into my teens, probably, that I figured out that this is really what I wanted to do with my life and that I wanted to be in show business forever.
Mm-hmm. Were you influenced in the early days of your career by the country singers that you heard when you listened to radio down in Georgia?
No, we didn't, due to monetary reasons, we didn't have a radio or a television or a record player, so most of the music that I heard through the church, and there was also an old black gentleman that used to play at the corner grocery store, and he used to play rhythm and blues, so that's kind of my background in music. And then my mother would sing me Hank Williams songs, so I really didn't have at that age any kind of influence by any other artist.
You know, it's interesting, Brenda, I don't know if anyone has told you this, I'm sure you realize it, but you were the first major country star to make that crossover and become a gigantic, popular singer.
I'm very proud of that. I feel that I've carried the banner of Nashville, Tennessee all over the world musically. And although my first record was definitely a country record, after I had Sweet Nothings, I was more or less categorized rock or pop. But I've had a good career in both fields of music, so I can't complain at all.
Yeah. Owen Bradley, the wonderful producer of country music who did some great things for Patsy Cline, I think, if I'm not wrong, he produced some of your early things, right?
Owen, I really credit him with, you know, being a big part of my career.
Mm-hmm. But this is the amazing thing about you, Brenda Lee. You're a little girl, 10, 11 years old, and you're singing these wonderful lyrics about teenage love. How does a little girl at that age, how is a girl at that age able to relate to the emotion that teenagers are feeling at that time?
I don't know. I've been asked that quite often, and I don't know where the emotional understanding came at that age. I really don't. I just know that I loved the songs, and I sang them the way I felt them. Because certainly at that time, at that age, I certainly wasn't experiencing any of those feelings or actions, so I really don't know where that came from.
You know, when I first heard those songs, I figured you were 16 or 17 years old. Brenda, how do you compare gospel with R&B music?
Well, you know, I don't know that you can make a comparison. I think both forms of music speak from the heart, speak from experiences that people have gone through, speak of life, speak of emotions, and I think that's why I fell in love with rhythm and blues at an early age, because it was so emotional, and the people that sang it were so emotional and got into what they were doing. And of course, gospel music is the same way, and country music to that extent is too. You live your lyrics, and it's all about life and what happens to you and what happens to people, and I think people can relate that, and it touches their emotions.
I agree. I really think that R&B and gospel are so closely associated. Your favorite country female singers?
I love Loretta Lynn, just for her sheer naivete and the innocence that she brings to her songs, and I loved Patsy Cline. I thought she was wonderful. She certainly was a pioneer for women, and I love Kitty Wells. I love Dolly. I love oh gosh, Lacey J. Dalton. There's a bunch of them that I love for different reasons. I'm a big fan of music and its entertainers.
I'll tell you, when you talk about Patsy Cline, let me take you back to the year 1961. The young lady records a song called
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy, crazy for feeling so I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted, and then someday you'd leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering what in the world did I do? Oh, crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. I'm crazy for trying and crazy for crying, and I'm crazy for loving you.
The Soul of Country. The song is written, by the way, by Willie Nelson in 1961. It's interesting because, you see, when you talk about Patsy Cline, she did create a whole different sound ahead of her time. She passes away in 1963 in a plane crash with Cowboy Copas and Hank Shaw Hawkins. We don't want you to go away. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, more country, Carl Perkins, and then again we'll talk with Brenda Lee.
Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything but lay off my blue suede shoe. Yeah, you can knock me down, step in my face, slapping my name all over the place. Do anything you want to do, but honey, lay off of them shoes. Don't step on my blue suede shoe.
1956, the young fellow by the name of Carl Perkins, he has the distinction of being the first rock star who comes from the world of country, and it's on the charts for 3 weeks straight as the #1 song. We're talking with Brenda Lee. When you talk about country, you also have to talk about Elvis, who made that change from country into rock and roll and became, as they say, the king of rock and roll. Do you remember when you first met him, Brenda?
I first met Elvis in 1957. We did the Grand Ole Opry together, and we became friends and remained friends throughout his life. And I thought he was really a nice, down-to-earth kind of family-type guy, and I really liked him a lot.
How old were you at that time?
I was 13 years old when we did the Grand Ole Opry together.
Isn't that amazing? 13 years old. Do you think that Elvis back then ever had any idea that he would eventually become, as they say, the king of rock and roll?
Probably not at that time. He was having a lot of fun with it. And he was such a down-home kind of a guy that probably never entered his mind. He was just having such a good time, and with the music that he was creating and all. That probably at that time, he probably never sat down to think, well, I'm going to be just the biggest thing that ever hit the music business. He probably never thought in those terms. Although probably, you know, had he would have realized that, yes, he was going to be that big.
It really is incredible when you come to think of it. Elvis Presley in the early part of the 50s with you, and he becomes the biggest star in the world. Out of all of the songs that you've recorded, what's your favorite?
Well, I guess, you know, my signature song would be I'm Sorry.
Yeah. Can you sing a little bit for me?
I'm sorry, so sorry.
That's wonderful. Brenda, thank you not only for sharing the music, but also for the love that you have for your music and your craft. Thank you, my baby.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed every minute of talking with you. It's always good to be with you.
My love, she's wonderful. Brenda Lee. Let's go to 1957. When you talk about Elvis, how about this?
Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm itching like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Well, my hand is shaky and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet. Who do you think of when you have such luck? I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Well, please don't ask me what's on my mind. I'm a little mixed up, but I feel fine when I'm in a girl that I love best. My heart beats so it scares me to death. She touches my hand, what a chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. My tongue gets tied when I try to speak. My inside shake like a leaf on a tree. There's only one cure for this body of mine. That's to have that girl and a love so fine. She touched my hand and was the chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup.
I'm in love. Do you realize that this song is #1 in 1957 for 9 weeks straight? That's right, Elvis Presley.
I'm all shook up.
Don't you just know it? Yeah, let me take you now back to the year 1958. In 1958, a young fellow from New Orleans, as they say, by the name of Huey Piana Smith, puts together a song and it becomes the #8 song in the country in 1958. We're going to let you see how our kids, though, do a dance called the slop to Don't You Just Know It. As all good things must come to an end, so must this show. Of course, I got to thank the lovely little Brenda Lee, just a wonderful human being. And I got to thank all of you folks out there. I hope you enjoyed our little bit of country salute today with On the Air with yours truly, the Geator. Will you make it, huh? Next week, same time, same place. Until we do it again, the Geator, the big boss with the big hot sauce with a reminder. Remember, it all Because honest and truly in life, you really only rock once.